Three, two, one. I'm John Miglautsch for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Today we're talking about ethics in marketing. How to do it? Is it important? What is it about? And yesterday we had a few laughs talking about how the Glad Wrap and FCB ad agency put one over on the social media influencers, and they may pay for that. They were indignant. They said it was unethical and it left a bad taste in their mouths. Maybe because of the Glad Wrap, we don't know. Shout out. I can't shout out to Grant Johnson, for giving me a free mug. If you send me a free mug, I will put you on the air. Okay, Grant Johnson's a good friend who doesn't write me back, and I will mention to him that I mentioned him at the beginning of this. So anyway, we were talking about this Forbes article, and she cited that consumers, without a doubt, want ethics, and of course, no citation. She cited a vintage ad from Winston Cigarettes, which showed a glowing pregnant woman smoking a cigarette. I thought it was going to be a glowing cigarette smoking a pregnant woman. But anyway, with the claim that smoking causes low birth weight. I thought that was great. If that's what you're after, I talked to my wife, who does a health column every week in about 40 or 50 newspapers, maybe 100 newspapers around the country. She said, yeah, she's pretty sure that smoking will cause low birth weight. So there's no lies in this ad. It's all true. It's just a weird benefit, right? It's like smoking can cause weight loss too, because your oral fixation is gratified and you don't have to eat. And that may be a benefit that people go for. There's a lot of benefits to smoking. It's just that we think that, and in Japan they don't get the lung cancer. They get strokes instead. We're not sure why. So, this is a good example of why ethics, while important, although a lot of the things that people say are important, are the people who want to make everything political and everything ethical. And the trouble is that their ethics and my ethics are miles apart. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about why ethics is complicated. I read this really interesting article. Well, first let's talk about how important it is. Okay, here was a great article. Teens still value price and quality over ethics. That's where I'm going to land there by the end of this. I'm going to probably talk about it tomorrow because I never seem to get it all covered. But it says the majority of teens are ethically conscious in their buying habits. But it also says that they're more likely to buy a brand if it supports a cause or charity important to them. Okay, but the most important thing is that they want a good price. Where's that? They want good quality. Well, when teens were asked what factors were most important when purchasing a brand, good quality and value for the money came out on top. Got that? You got that? So the number one ethical principle is sell good stuff at a good price. And I think if we're going to boil this all down, that is the number one thing. And it bothers me a little bit when we start talking about, ex-football players or, what we're doing in the Congo, and we're not worrying about the product. The flagship product for me is LL Bean because they just make good stuff. They sell good stuff. Okay, that's like the core value. And I think sometimes we hear about these promotions and things about how they're helping the world. I'd rather have a good value, and I'll help the world the way I want to help it. Okay, that's my own ethics. But it was really interesting. So in my ethical, how have I applied ethics? Well, for one thing, for a good example, Blockbuster Video came to me at their heyday, really at the peak. And they said, we want to build a catalog. And I said, okay, I'm the catalog. No, they actually said, you're the catalog guy. You're the guy we heard about all over. Everybody says, talk to John Miglautsch if you want to do a catalog, which I was pretty proud of. sadly, the internet came along the next year, and only people with 10 seconds of experience in marketing got got called. Anyway, so they came to me and they said, "Well, what do you want to?" I said, "Well, what do you want to sell?" They said, "Well, we have 27 million household names in our file." I said, "Great, and you have their video tracking record, right?" "Yeah." I said, "Okay, and what do you want to sell?" "Well, we'll sell videos and we'll sell team apparel. We want to sell Marlins gear." Well, I said, "You might have to, broaden that a little to sell general sports apparel, but okay, if you want to sell sports apparel, that's people do that." And so I said, "What do you think the average order will be?" And they said, "Not too high, maybe $40." And I said, "Okay, and what's your margin?" "It's not very high in those things." And they said, "Oh, maybe 30%. I said, "Okay, so that means every time you sell something, you start at $40, you go down to about, your margin is only a third, so you're down at about $10. What are you gonna charge for order processing? How much is it gonna take?" "Well, we want to use our fulfillment center, and they charge us $8 per shipment." I said, "You can't do it. It can't work." Or it was 9 maybe. I said, "That means you got to get an order for every 2 catalogs at 50 cents a piece or something like that." I said, "You're not going to get 25%, even though you know the video history, rental history. That's not compelling anyway, I mean, whether you bought the Marx Brothers or rented the Marx Brothers or documentaries, I'm not sure is going to tell you which sports apparel you're going to buy, if any. I mean, nowadays, could I model it? Could I boil down 27 million to, 500,000 that are pretty likely to buy? Yeah, probably I could have. Probably could have done that. Because modeling is kind of backwards. It doesn't take that a priori understanding of what the connections are. You can see if there are connections, and then try to exploit them. Which is, I mean, I don't mean it in a mean way. I just mean, you can say, "Oh, gee, everybody who bought musical comedies is a good customer." I don't know. Just saying. Okay, so this I think is really gets at the heart of the issue. Okay, and that the kids, yeah, they'd like. And here's about Levi's taking a stand on gun control. They want more gun control. It says, if you're a brand in 2018 and not concerned with purpose and ethics, you run the risk of not just alienating a whole generation, but letting down customers who value good more than you do. Okay, but the problem is, as Tiger Woods pointed out when they asked him what he felt about Trump, he said, "I sell to a lot of people. I sell my stuff." I just really think it's dangerous. Can it work, especially in the short term? It's really interesting too. Talk about ethics. Here's a great book I highly recommend, Accidental Empires, and it's about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and some of these early guys, and how they built their empires in the data processing software business. You know that Bill Gates bought QDOS. It was IBM asked him. IBM had a confidentiality agreement that basically said, anything you tell us, we own. So don't tell us any more than we ask. You get what you get what you get. And so they asked, "Do you have an operating system we can use or buy?" And he said, "Well, we would like you to license it." And yes, I do. And that was all he said. And he knew that there was a guy in the computer club across town in Seattle that had created an operating system called QDOS, for quick and dirty operating system. Literally. You've probably heard of DOS. Well, they just chopped the Q off of it. And it was quick and dirty operating system. It was the only one the guy had ever written. He didn't know much about operating systems. And we reaped the benefits of that for about 20 years, right? And so Bill Gates paid him $50,000. Later, the guy sued and got a couple of million, but it was nothing. It basically built Microsoft. And this is and there's story after story of how these guys stole from each other, how Apple stole from Xerox, and Microsoft stole from Xerox, and they're all stealing. These companies that everybody thinks are the pinnacle of ethics. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how to have ethics, what to do, what to ask yourself, what questions to ask. I think it's going to be worth your time. Like and share. I'm